Hey there, my fellow author. I'm Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer, an old soul kind of writer living my dream as a full-time author and authorpreneur. But I didn't start out living a confident, creative lifestyle. I struggled with the fears and the mental and emotional barriers that so often plague writers at all stages of their author career. But the truth is that with the right knowledge, tools, and training, you can overcome those barriers. I'm here to teach you how I've developed a lifestyle that's allowed me to publish 19 books and counting. Each week, as you tune into the Confident Fiction Author podcast, you'll get clarity on the steps you need to take to advance your writing career. Whether it's developing your ideal writing routine, tackling new skills like dictating your fiction, or overcoming the obstacles life throws your way, this podcast will help you live a more confident, creative lifestyle. Let's get started. Hey there, my fellow author, and welcome to this week's episode of The Confident Fiction Author. Today, I'm going to share with you why I switched to a 4-day work week this year in 2024 and how it actually boosted my writing life and my career. This is something I thought wouldn't be possible for me for at least a few more years. And you may be feeling that as we're going into 2025, that your goals as an author in terms of productivity and the lifestyle you want to achieve as an author is still a few years down the road. And really that probably comes from you feeling like you never have enough time to get your work done as it is in a full 5 days or 6 days, or some authors I know are working 7 days a week. So if you feel like the lack of time is holding you back from accomplishing your goals as an author, I hope that by sharing my experience this year, it will bring out some limiting beliefs that you may have as an author who is just feeling stressed out, and that lack of time management is holding you back from becoming that confident fiction author that you want to be. So I have been a full-time authorpreneur since 2017, when writing became my primary source of income. And I spent a lot of those years between then and now doing various things to bring in income as an author, including developing myself. So personal development, professional development was a big part of my journey. And through that, I had heard about the 4-day work week, which was really appealing to me. Now, let me just define 4-day work week as that's not 4 days at 10 hours a day. It's literally taking your 5-day work week and putting it into 4 days for regular 8-hour days. And honestly, I don't even work 8-hour days, which I'll talk a bit more about my schedule as we get into this. Because really and truly, whenever I heard about the 4-day work week model, I didn't think it was truly possible for me to implement, because I didn't believe I could get as much done in 4 days as 5 days. But at the beginning of this year, I took the plunge and found out that I could do even more in those 4 days than what I was getting done in 5 days. And so, like me, you may be more ready for a 4-day work week than you might think. Let's get into it. At the beginning of 2024, as I was sitting with my planner and looking ahead to the year, I always start with looking back and reflecting on the previous year. What were my wins? What were my disappointments? What were things that I wish had gone better? What went better than I expected? And so one of the things I was looking at was the idea of a 4-day work week and dreaming what that would look like and how it would change my life someday in the future. And so as many of you know, I'm a Christian. And so as I was looking ahead and sitting there with my planner and praying, I just told God how amazing it would be to someday go to a 4-day work week. And when in the future might I see that? And I felt Him speak in my spirit that why not now? Why not this year? what's holding you back from implementing a 4-day work week in 2024. And I just felt like my brain exploded. And I was so excited because my limiting belief was that it would have to happen sometime in the future when I had my life together, when I had my writing and my business together, that someday when all of this criteria that I didn't even know what the criteria was, honestly, that someday this would all be in place and I could just go to that 4-day work week. What happened when I started thinking about what 2024 would look like as a 4-day work week, my brain started coming up with what I would need to do in order to make that possible. And that's the thing about a big goal and aiming for a bigger future is it makes your present better. And it really makes you dig into your present and you start discarding those limiting beliefs that were holding you back. And I'm going to talk more about getting clarity on your future and your present and your past in a future episode. But for now, I'll just say that getting that bigger future in mind and going for it in 2024 is what made my present better this year. Now that we're at the end of 2024, I'm looking back, I'm preparing to analyze this past year and again, look at what went well, what was I disappointed with, what were some big highlights and wins of the year. Without even doing that, I can tell you that this was one of the biggest years of my author career to date. It was truly incredible. I had time to be productive, do my writing, enjoy professional and personal relationships, and I had time for things like going and attending the Oklahoma Book Awards in the spring, where my first nonfiction book won its category and it was selected to represent the state of Oklahoma at the Library of Congress's National Book Festival. And because of my 4-day work week, again, and my higher productivity and all of the things that it forced me to cut out of my life, I was able to say yes to traveling to DC a few months later to attend that book festival, which was an outstanding experience. It's the Super Bowl for readers. And none of that was even on my radar at the beginning of this year. Yet I was able to do all of those things without the added stress that even though I was adding travel and all of the additional excitement, because I wasn't overworked and overwhelmed with a 5-day work week, it was much easier for me to be flexible and take advantage of these just really fun milestones in my writing career. And honestly, something I'd never even dreamed of or knew existed or thought would be possible in my author career. I was also interviewed for Writer's Digest for the magazine and was their author spotlight for the September-October edition 2024 of the magazine, which was just such a full circle journey for me, looking back over my past 15 years in taking my author career seriously. Now, I will say that for the first part of the year, I was on a fiction writing sabbatical, doing some recovery from my last big push that I did in the fall of 2023, and I just really needed to step back for a little bit of time in there. And one of the reasons was I was one of the caregivers for my cousin, so during that first half of the year, I was spending a lot of time taking her to doctor appointments and then several weeks of radiation. So I needed to emotionally step back from my fiction writing to get through that time period. Sometimes fiction writing is helpful during a crisis, and I've done that as well, and I talked about that in a previous episode. But I did want to highlight that I didn't do as much fiction writing as I maybe normally would have, but that wasn't so much a productivity issue as just an emotional recovery thing for me. That said, I did write a novella this summer, and I'm writing another one this fall, and I'm hoping to get one more done before the end of this year. So I technically will have gotten 3 books written in 2024 as well. So not too shabby on the fiction writing productivity end of it. The really amazing thing is I'm on track to also have my highest income earning year, not necessarily from book sales, but just as a writer and my whole of what I do. And I also switched from copywriting as my main source of income to my fiction teaching business, which was an extraordinary milestone that I had kind of hoped for and prayed for at the beginning of this year, but didn't truly expect. And so to see that come about, along with all of the other things for this year, which I just touched on a few highlights, but I was able to do all of that and be productive and stay healthy while working not only a 4-day week, but a 4-hour per day work week. Yes, so whenever I said I wasn't talking about 4 10-hour days or even 4 8-hour days, I was able to really just declutter my author life to the point that I would spend 2 to 3 of those 4 hours a day in deep work, which if you're not familiar with deep work, I highly recommend the book called Deep Work by Cal Newport. And so I was really able to get my deep work in and then spend about an hour doing administrative tasks and emails and taking care of things like that during my 4-day work week. And so the rest of the day was spent on another big project in my life. And one of the reasons why I decided to hunker down and do a 4-hour work day, and that is our house building project that my mama and I are in the midst of. We have 5 acres and want to get a small, modest house built out there for us to move into, hopefully, this next year. So we spent hours working on the floor plan and really customizing it in a way that will fit our lifestyles and use our gift of hospitality just in the best ways. Now, one of the keys for me in doing a 4-day, 4-hour work week is getting up pretty early in the morning. You don't have to set your alarm for 4:30 in the morning per se if you're going to do this schedule, but I typically find myself getting out of bed by 6 o'clock, and I don't set an alarm. I really just try to take advantage of my natural sleep cycle and get the sleep that I need. So I'm typically in bed by 9, lights out after reading by 10 o'clock, and I'm up before 6. I do a full morning routine, which I'll talk about in a future episode, that it takes me about an hour and a half or so. And then I'm usually at my desk before 8 a.m., which is really odd sometimes if I'm needing to send someone a text message or an email, and I have to remind myself that not everyone is on my schedule. But that's a good thing because I typically don't start with correspondence anyway. I really want to get into my deep work hours. That's one of the reasons I like to get to my desk by 8 a.m. before a lot of other things are going on and other distractions are coming in. I can get that deep work in while the house is quiet, while the world's a little quieter, and I can focus on going deep into whatever project that I'm working on that day. And sometimes it's a couple of projects. I'll work for an hour, hour and a half on one project, and then maybe I have another project that I need to switch to and do some deep work on. If you'd like to hear more about how I break down my work days and plan my work week, send me a message, send me an email at hello@fictioncourses.com and let me know if that would be interesting to you, and I can go deeper into talking about my daily and weekly schedule. But I'll just wrap up with saying I typically finish my deep work by 11 a.m. and we're currently doing intermittent fasting, so we don't eat until 11 a.m. and then we have our last food by 7 o'clock. So it's really given me an opportunity to have a good 2 to 3 hours of deep work in the mornings, have a meal, and then I come back to my desk and spend about an hour from noon to 1 o'clock or so with doing administrative work and really just closing out my work day before I take a rest and then get into our afternoon of work together with my mama on our house project or whatever other projects we have going on that are generally around our move and our land. Now, all of this may sound really great, and you may have heard about the 4-day work week. Your company, if you're working in corporate, your company may have even talked about it, or who knows, maybe you're doing a 4-day work week. Or if you're an entrepreneur like me, an authorpreneur, and really working toward making a full-time income as an author, or that's something that you've already reached, and you're really wondering what a 4-day work week would look like in your life, because you might be hesitant, like I was, that you have that fear of not being as productive and even loss of income. So your income going down because you're cutting back your hours. Like, how could you possibly get as much done and not lose income if you go from working 5, 6, 7 days a week to working only 4 days? And I think especially if you are an entrepreneur and maybe it's not your sole source of income. Maybe you have a spouse who is bringing in the majority of the income, but they've allowed you to pursue your dream of being a full-time author, but you're kind of stuck in that in-between place of not really making a full-time income, but yet you're working extraordinary amounts of hours and putting everything you have toward being an authorpreneur. So the idea of cutting down those hours and losing what income you do have or decreasing it can be a scary thing. It's a scary thought. And that was what I had at the beginning of this year, and really for years before that. The other thing is, you may just feel like it wouldn't be right to go to a 4-day work week. Like, who does that? Ford back in the day gave us our Saturdays to do recreation. So he reduced the work week from a 6-day work week to a 5-day work week. And that's just such a cultural norm really around the world. Like, that's just what we do. We work 5 days at our jobs, or as entrepreneurs in our business, in our writing, we take our Saturdays for recreation, Sunday hopefully for rest, and then we're back at it on Monday. And so that's just normal. And it would feel very abnormal even talking with others that you know to say that you're on a 4-day work week. And entrepreneurs especially are so bad at this. I saw a meme that I embraced for a while before I finally rejected it as crazy, but it said that entrepreneurs are the only ones who work an 80-hour week to avoid working a 40-hour week. And I was like, no, why is that so true? But I have, of course, since rejected that. But that is what we feel, I think, especially as entrepreneurs, that we're not only expected to do a 5-day work week, but a 6- and 7-day work week. And that's just the norm for being an authorpreneur, especially if you have a day job and then you're spending your other hours, your other 40 hours in your author career in business. And so another reason you may be feeling that resistance is going to a 4-day work week could feel lazy. Like you're not paying your dues. You're not putting in the grind in those hours into 5 days of work until you are just drop dead exhausted. And then at that point, you feel like you have permission to crash over the weekend and get back up on Monday and do it all over again. Which leads us to why we really need to embrace rest and recreation. Rest truly is a gift to us from God. We don't have to earn it, and whatever your spiritual beliefs are, I just want to let you know, you don't have to earn rest. You don't have to work 80 hours before you can justify mentally and emotionally that you have earned a few hours or an entire day of rest. But that's something I embraced a long time ago. I really started protecting my Sundays as a time of reading the Bible, of spending the time with my mama, and then just reading. I love to just get a good novel out and read for a good chunk of the day, take a long nap, and just generally allow my mind and emotions to wind down and truly release and rest for that day. So rest is definitely something that a 4-day work week allows, because those other 2 days, which are typically Friday and Saturday for most of us, and it is for me, is it allows me to do other things. Like I talked about in the afternoons, I'm doing other projects. I'm tackling big things in my personal life so that I'm not just all about work. I'm taking care of my family. I'm taking care of my health. I'm enjoying some hobbies, like I had in last week's episode, how I took on playing pickleball. And it starts fairly early in the evening on Tuesdays, so I need to make sure that my other things are all cleared off and taken care of so I can go and enjoy that during the week. And so those are my afternoons. And then Fridays and Saturdays, but Fridays especially, those are used for taking care of all the other things in life, right? It's not just work. I have chores, I have laundry to do and house cleaning and taking care of vehicles and running errands, buying birthday gifts and birthday cards. There's just always something extra every week that if I don't spend at least an afternoon or a morning on, it piles up very quickly in my personal life. And then Saturdays are really for recreation. I'm in different groups and associations, so a lot of times we have meetings on Saturdays. It's a time that I'm seeing other people and hopefully getting some other connections going or going to the movies and really just enjoying Saturday as that recreation day. Now, I do want to acknowledge I've been talking a lot about authorpreneurs, which are authors who are entrepreneurs. That may not be you. You may have a job that you go to 5 days a week, and so you're not a freelancer. You are locked into a schedule. And I want to just give you a word of encouragement on how you can implement this even if you're in a job. One, I know a lot of people who talk to their boss and present the studies shown about the benefits of a 4-day work week. That may be an option for you. And if it isn't, you can still look at your author career as a 4-day work week. So if you're someone who does set your alarm at 4:30 in the morning so that you can get up and write and do all of your author business before you go to your job, maybe you're only doing that 4 days a week instead of 5 days, and you spend those other mornings in personal development or just rest so that you can be more productive in those hours that you are putting into your author business and career. Just start thinking about what's possible and challenging your assumptions that a 4-day work week or 4 days of working in your author career wouldn't work for you. Like, how would it work? What would it take to make a 4-day work week possible for you as an author? All right, so in bringing all of this together for you, what I would encourage you to do is look at your week and schedule out an ideal 4-day work week. What would that look like for you? What would your 4 working days be? And know that they don't have to be 4 consecutive days. They don't have to be Monday through Thursday. Maybe they're Monday, Tuesday, you take off Wednesday, and then you're doing Thursday and Friday because maybe Wednesday is special to you. Maybe that's the day that your child has parent lunches at their school, or it's when a friend is available to get together. It can also be flexible. I'm not always Monday through Thursday. Sometimes I do have doctor appointments, or we need to travel to Oklahoma during the week, or there's just other things going on. For me, it's been taking my cousin to her doctor appointments, so I had to switch a Wednesday for a Friday not too long ago. So just look at your lifestyle and what it is that you're wanting to do and wanting to accomplish, and what would a 4-day work week look like for you, and what would less hours look like for you? What would you have to say no to? And that's something that, again, I'll cover more in another episode, but saying no is going to be your key to creating a 4-day work week. And if you want to do even like what I did of going to a 4-hour 4-day work week, it is really going to force you to get down to the nitty-gritty of what is important in your author career, what is moving you forward, what is creating the lifestyle that you want as an author. So it's not easy to say no, but it will result in a more focused, productive life with more time for guilt-free rest and recreation, and that is just so worth it. All right, so what about you? How are you going to begin making time for your work and your life this week? I would love for you to shoot me an email through hello@fictioncourses.com and let me know, how are you implementing this in 2025, or what is your dream to implement it? What would your life look like if you could design your work around a 4-day work week? That's all for this week. Don't forget, you can go to fictioncourses.com/toolkit to get the free Confident Fiction Author Toolkit. You can download that. I have some of the tools and resources that I recommend for authors, including the book Free to Focus by Michael Hyatt. Highly recommend that if you are looking to implement that 4-day work week in your author life. He doesn't specifically talk about the 4-day work week, although I did learn about the concept from him, but the strategies that he has in there will give you concrete guidance on what it would take to design a 4-day work week for your life. I hope this was helpful for you. If it was, please do leave a 5-star review on the podcast. It just helps so much in getting the word out there about this new podcast, The Confident Fiction Author. I'll see you again in next week's episode. Take care.